I'm ready when you are, brother.
All right. All right. Thank you for listening. Excuse me. Thank you for listening in to another episode of Where the Fortune Is. And I tell you what, I am beyond excited to talk to our next guest. We have, and correct me if I'm wrong, your last name. So I was trying to work on this. It's Otto Borsich.
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 Borsich, yeah.
Otto. And Otto is actually a award-winning chef, author, Tedx speaker, a Navy veteran. Kind of a quick overview. Otto is actually just been a love of being a chef on the Tedx. I loved it because you said at the age of 5, you knew you wanted to be a chef and you wanted to be in the Navy. And hats off to you. And thank you for being a veteran in your service. And he was also was a contestant on Top Chef, Supermarket Stakeout. And he was a catalyst for getting behind the Childhood Hunger Day in Washington, D.C., culinary missionary. And I feel like the list just goes on. And Otto, I can't thank you enough for your time and for being on the show. And if I've left something out, please let me know. But just fantastic to have you on. Thank you.
Hey, I'm thrilled to be here. It's good stuff.
Well, I know you knew at an early age about wanting to be a chef. I mean, did that ever just kind of change, or you stuck to it and said, "Hey, this is it"?
Well, it's a great question, and as insane as it may sound, Robbie, there was no decision. It was just put into me. Like, I mean, how does a kid growing up in Ohio in the 60s and 70s know he's going to be a chef? You know, like I say in my best-selling memoir cookbook, you know, A Chef Was Born. You know, back when I was a kid, grew up in Ohio, you knew what chefs were, but you never saw them. They were like ghosts.
Yeah.
And so back in that day, you know, it was Julia Child and Graham Kerr, but you know, I came from a large family, and we always had leftovers. And you know, for example, we had white rice on Tuesday night. Well, Wednesday night, I'm taking that white rice and I'm making fried rice. Throw up some ham, some scrambled egg, a little soy sauce, bada bing, fried rice. And never stop cooking, Robbie. Here I am and tell the tale.
I love it. Yeah, I was looking through, and I love some of the titles that you have. Well, actually, I love all the titles you have for your chapter, the chapters in your book of A Chef Is Born. And just to give some listeners an idea, you have War is Hell, Love You to Death, Wild Horses at the Cadillac Ranch, 1,036 days, and Here's Looking at You, Squid. And then I love how you have scripture in there, and you also have, you know, you have a recipe in there. It's just, everything was great. I was actually reading through it briefly, some of the stuff, and I like the one of War is Hell, and just the story behind that. Did you have anybody help you write the book, or is that just all you on the writing?
Bro, that is all me. Blood, sweat, tears, and fears. That's everything. That book took me 9.5, 10 years to complete, from the time I started to the time I got finished. And you know, it's not that I toiled over it for all that time, but let's face it, as a chef, I work, you know, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. And then there was always something to do. There was a rock concert to go to. There was a movie to go see. There was a 3-day weekend. There was a dance, whatever. But I got to a point where I said, Otto, you got 5 chapters left. This is the deadline. Get this sucker done and let's go. And that's what happened. But yeah, it was a journey and it was awesome. And, you know, yeah, I had an idea of how that book was going to be laid out there. And, you know, Robbie, as a chef, you know, something my first boss taught me, it's like, hey, what are you going to do to be different? What are you going to do to set yourself aside from other competitors? And so as I made this book, I kind of took it from a chef point, writing a menu. Like, this has got to be interesting. It's got to be mouthwatering. It's got to be appetizing. I mean, it's got to be Otto-licious. It's got to have my thumbprint all over it. So that's it.
Otto-licious. I love that. Well, that was great because when I was looking through the War is Hell, I like how you started off, and it was a poignant time. And you brought up, you know, the Kent State and everything that happened there in the massacre. But then as you're going through it, you were tying in, you know, 4th grade. Here you're going to 5th grade, and the teacher said, hey, you know what, you can, you know, wear a costume or, you know, for the last day. And you were just over the moon over it. Cause like, hey, great, it's Halloween right now before it actually happens.
Yeah, she told the wrong cowboy that, Robbie. So I showed up to school, you know, this is June 1970, just about 3 weeks after Kent State. Mm-hmm. Had War is Hell on the back of my shirt, which is a quote that Tecumseh Sherman said as he burned Atlanta. Yeah. And I thought that was a pretty, radical saying for a 10-year-old kid.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Well, how did you go about too? You kind of touched on it about setting yourself apart, from other chefs and just to get out there. I know, and you mentioned in your TED talk, and we talked about it briefly before we started recording, about the quote that your brother had on his door, and nothing in the world would take the place of persistence and just having that tenacity. I know that took a lot to separate you from the pack, but is there anything else you felt like you had to do to really, raise the bar, if you will?
Hey, that's a great question, and it's about the package. It's about a personality. It's about the will, the desire. I mean, there's plenty of talented folks. There's chefs out there better than me, but do they have the drive and the skill to separate themselves? So there's varying factors, but at the end of the day, when you take that box of goodies that you have in your toolbox and put them into play to get where you want to go in life, whether it's a doctor, lawyer, Indian chief, I don't care how much money you got, how much skill you got, you got to be persistent. You got, I like to use that analogy in nature. You take a stream, a river, over a jagged rock, and over a period of time, that jagged rock is going to get rounded.
Yeah,
that's persistence. It'll wear you down. So,
yeah, I love that analogy too, and that's so true that it's just over time where. So pretty much you're just going to wear down your competitors. They're going to wear down, and you're going to get to the next spot.
Yeah, people are going to get tired of seeing you. They're going to get tired of telling you no, or whatever the case may be. Eventually, there's going to be a big breakthrough. It's just a law of probability, or the odds of probability, if you will.
Oh yeah, definitely. Throughout your journey, and it's just what led you to try to get on the Top Chef. Is that somebody that said, "Hey, you know what? Hey, this is happening," or you saw it and you're like, "Hey, I can make this happen."
I was in Vegas and got this announcement. So I belong to the ACF, the American Culinary Federation, and they had an announcement, hey, there's this new reality show coming out, chef show. They're going to be in Vegas looking for contestants, so apply. So I applied, and they flew me out. They flew me out to LA to meet the producers. And I didn't get. That was the very first season.
Yeah.
I didn't get picked, and I watched it, and I watched the show that after it was taped and on. I'm like, wow, like that's it, really? Like, so I'm like, I got to apply again. So I applied again, and guess what? I mean, honestly, Robbie, I'm not making it up. I showed up the second time, and there's this guy, Robbie Bernstein, one of the talent scouts. He's like, hey, you showed up again. That's persistence. We like that. So there's a living example of it for you right there. The P word.
Yeah, nice. I'm about to say, if you didn't say persistence, about to say that was going to be a prime example there, and they saw it, they went with it.
Yep.
Do you still do the I know I was looking through the bio you sent, was pretty phenomenal, the culinary missionary. Do you still do that as well, or is that something that I know you've had a lot, been a world traveler? Is that something you still tap into?
Still do it. I mean, being a missionary, I can feed people right here in Charleston, my own backyard, if we are, or I can go 8,000 miles away to the Philippines. The last time I did an overseas trip was in the Philippines. That was back in spring of 18. But yeah, I've been to Guatemala, South Africa. I've been around, and I love these, what I call like an independent missionary. I mean, I'm not going with a church group with 15, 20 other people. I mean, for me, when I go as a solo act, if you will, I do my thing. I do the shopping. I make the food, and now it's just me. So now I have a better opportunity when I finish up with my business there. I don't have other people I have to contend with on their happiness level. I'm there now to do what I want to do. So they're working vacations, if you will. But at the same time, I'm there using my gift to feed people that need to be fed, and as I say, spread the gospel of cuisine. You know.
Yeah, I love that. And through with your, just impeccable, just whole career, if you will. And I know persistence is the main key. I feel like main key ingredient for what you've gone through. If somebody's wanting to be, a chef, or they want to get into the industry, what's the best thing they could do to stand out from the crowd?
Well, before we stand out from the crowd, make sure you want to be in this crowd, because this crowd, Robbie, is not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
This is a tough job. I'm not going to make any bones about it. You work days, nights, weekends, double shifts, triple shifts, what we call the cloper, which is when Saturday night you're opening. I'm sorry, Saturday night you're closing, and then Sunday morning you're opening. You're the cloper. Close and open. So you leave work at 11 o'clock or midnight, then you go back and open at 8 a.m.
Okay.
Holidays, nights, weekends. I mean, forget Mother's Day, Christmas Day, Thanksgiving. You're working. When you're off, your friends are working. When you're working, your friends are off. It's a tough field. And then, yeah, let's face it, there is a lot of drugs and alcohol in this business. Not that I'm condoning it. It's just comes with the territory. So anybody that wants to get in this business, they should actually go whatever time they're working, St. Louis, Memphis, Cleveland, whatever, and get their way into the best restaurant in town, or one of the best, okay? And see if you like it. And you know what? You're going to know. Mm-hmm. You're going to know after a day if you got to peel 50 pounds of potatoes and chuck a case of peas, or whatever the chef's got you doing, whether you really love that or, oh my God, this sucks. I don't even want to see another potato again. And then that's when you're gonna know. So, you know, Norm Van Aken's got a great quote, and I mentioned it in my book. It's actually a forward there where he says, "You don't choose this profession; it chooses you." And it's so true, and that's why I was born to be a chef. You know, I was meant to do this. It's not for everybody. It's not for sissies.
Oh, that's so true. You're true. You're right. It isn't, because there are those times where you have to make a lot of sacrifice, as you just alluded to. And hey, you know, you're going to do it or not. And if you're either going to bail quick or stick around for the long haul. But
hey, you know, the flip side, Robbie, is this. I have an international passport, bro. I mean, when people find out I'm a chef, I mean, they're my best friend now. Like, oh my God, can you cook this, or can you cook that? And I mean, just today I went to Guitar Center to pick up this voice box for my podcast I'm going to start soon. The guy's name is Juan. We're talking. Hey, I said, I'm a technically challenged chef. I need a voice box for. Hey, wow, you're a chef. Well, my mom's a great cook, and she's Colombian, and we're going to start doing these productions where, like, she's going to make empanadas, and we're looking for other people to come in and sell plates for $5 or $10. You interested? I'm like, yeah. So boom. Bro, food is the key to life. It affects every single person on this planet. And, you know, I've had a great run. Has it been challenging? Has it been sacrifices? Absolutely. Will I do it all over again? Oh, yeah. It's great. It's an amazing career.
That's fantastic. And you're right. It does open up so many doors and conversations to so many people. I remember when I was like I told you earlier, I was in the Coast Guard. And a long time ago, when I was between the ages of 7 to 10, we lived in Portugal. And so when I was in the Coast Guard, believe it or not, we do go overseas. And so with the ship I was on, we pulled into Lisbon, and I reconnected with a family I saw a long time ago.
Wow.
And it was so fun. I mean, half of them spoke English, half didn't. And we sat down to this spread of food. And I took a couple of buddies of mine from the Coast Guard, and we sat there, and they still talk about this to this day, the food that we had, the spread. And it was, I mean, we had homemade wine. It was just unbelievable. And it was just great experience. And there's a picture of me talking to the, one of the older gentlemen there. I loved it because he doesn't know any English. I don't know Portuguese that well. We're having a full-blown conversation over food and wine.
And that's how it should be, brother.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're only 241 years old as a country here, but you know, you look to the old world, to Europe, to Asia. I mean, food is everything. It's, I mean, you go to France, man, these guys are on 3-4 hour lunch breaks. I mean, they shut down the post office so they go home and eat and catch a nap. I mean, it's insane. We work too dang hard here in the U.S. That'll never happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's magical what it can do. It really is.
It truly is. Through what you've gone through, and I know you've done a lot, and it sounds, I mean, and I think you're a private chef currently right now in Charleston.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Through that, you might not look at it as a setback or failure. Has there ever been a time, I know it's been some tough, arduous road that you have, you know, gone through. Has there ever been a time in your career where it was just, man, it was maybe a fail or a setback? You kind of look back and you're like, man, this changed like the way you kind of view things and look at like what's going on now in the business?
Well, certainly right now, COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm grateful to be working. I mean, when you look at big name chefs, I'm talking about Puck and Ramsey and you know these guys with empires, 20, 30, 40 restaurants, and they got to close up shop and lay thousands of people off. And these guys are far better chefs than I would ever dream of. And hey, I'm still working. I got a job. You know, I call this time right now the pandemic pivot. You know, what do I got to do to survive? How do I got to change gears? But, you know, and like I said, I'm going to start doing a podcast. And you know what? If this pandemic didn't hit, I probably wouldn't be podcasting. But this is giving me another opportunity. Or whether it'll be income producing or not is secondary. What's important is, you know, to meet people like yourself and others to get on the internet here and tell stories, because people are fascinated by that. And, you know, I've learned so much about you in the short time we've been talking prior to us getting logged on here live, that, you know, people like real. They don't want any more BS. There's enough BS going on the planet. They want to know things, and they want to be taught things. They want to be educated. They want to be entertained. They want to be empowered. So I'm looking forward to getting on a podcast and sharing those traits with people.
Yeah, that's good. I can't wait to tune into it when you do that as well. So send me a link when you do. And you mentioned to it about being, you know, teaching and helping others. I know you served as a chef instructor at the Culinary Institute of America. Can you just kind of tap into that? How was that? How was that journey as well?
Wow. So that again is a journey.
Yeah.
So, you know, I love that expression, you know, man makes plans and God laughs. So when I was a boy, not a man, growing up in Ohio, my plan was to join the Navy, cook on a submarine, because the subs have the best shower and all the military.
Yeah.
Get out, use my GI Bill, and go to the CIA. That was my plan. So what happened was I joined the Navy. I cooked on a submarine, did 5 patrols on USS Patrick Henry, home port out Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. And then I moved to New York City, and I got a job at the Pierre Hotel, one of the greatest hotels in the world. And there was a chef there named Michael Skibitsky, and he took me under his wing. He says, well, you know, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to go to the CIA. And he said to me, well, why do you want to go to the CIA and spend all that money? I'm going to teach you what they're going to teach you, only better, because you're going to apply it every day, and I'm going to pay you. So to a 23-year-old kid, that sounded pretty good at the time.
Yeah.
So I did a classic European apprenticeship program at the Pierre Hotel, and then, you know, worked at some great places. I was fortunate. I had great chefs underneath me. And so Michael, he was a chef de cuisine, but the head chef, the executive chef, his name was Franz Klomfer. He's about a 6'5" Austrian. Dude had a head the size of a watermelon. And he said, Otto, when you leave here, you do 2 things. You work for the best chefs in the best places. And you know what? That was some of the best advice he gave me. That's why I was at the Pierre. That's why I opened La Bernadin. That's why I worked at Trotters. That's why I was at the Bellagio. That's why I opened the Atlantis Resort and Casino. That's why I opened Mardan Palace in Antalya, Turkey, $1.4 billion hotel. I worked with great chefs and great restaurants or hotels. So what happened was, I'm at the Atlantis Resort. I worked there I was on the opening crew. I worked there for 2 years. And I'm flipping through the American Culinary Federation magazine. And what I always do, I open the back first and I'm reading the want ads. Wanted, chef instructors, Culinary Institute of America. I'm like, oh my God, gotta apply.
Yeah.
I apply, and son of a gun, Robbie, from a kid 20 years earlier who wanted to go to that school as a student, now I got a job teaching there with no formal education. You know why? I persisted.
Yeah, it's true. I love it. And then through that, and you named all some impeccable places that you went through. How do you feel like having networking, just having a strong community helps you kind of guide your career?
The chef world. I mean, bro, you were in the military, as I was. I mean, outside of the military and first responders, police, ambulance, you know, paramedics, you know, fire. The chef fraternity and sorority, to my sisters, bro, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I make a phone call. Hey, I need this, that, or the other thing. Oh my God, look at Jose Andres. I mean, this guy is feeding the freaking world with these disasters. You know, fed Puerto Rico during the hurricane down there. He's over in Lebanon now. I mean, this guy is insane. He's getting a hold of cruise ships which aren't cruising anymore and using their kitchens to make food. The guy's genius, and I'm just so proud of that man and this business. And we are such a giving force. And, you know, good God, I can't tell you how many times I've donated my goods and services for charity. And not that I'm bragging about it, but that's just how chefs are.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not bragging because, I mean, people don't know, like myself. So I'm just curious, like looking into that world and how, if it really is that tight knit community. But obviously it sounds like it. You got a great fraternity and sororities you mentioned.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't trade for the world, bro. I mean, I you know, because we get us. You know, we get what we go through. We get the holidays and I mean, all that stuff I mentioned before. We get all that. We live it. You know, so work's over 11 o'clock. Okay, you're out now. You're at the local bar. You know, shots, beers. You know, hey, cigarette. And then it's amazing. Like, you know, these young cooks, they'll sit there and they will rewind the friggin' night. Remember that Jack got some table 37? We turned the steak 3 times. It was a perfect medium rare. I mean, bro, cook's memories are insane, and the burns and the cuts and But you know what? At the end of the day, man, if I got arrested and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I need someone to come bail me out, I'm calling one of my cooks up because they're gonna come to my rescue, and that's how it is, as I would them.
Yeah, it's almost like you said. What each other have gone through, and it just reminds me of, some of my brothers and sisters, or any veteran really. And then some guys that I lost touch with, we got connected with recently, through the pandemic. And you're right. As soon as, I talk to them, it's just an instant connection because we went through so much, even in a short amount of time. It's just an instant connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that's great. So I know you're a private chef right now in Charleston. Is that the main focus, or do you have anything else other than the podcast kind of, cooking that you want to, no pun intended, that you want to try to get, tap into next?
Well, just recently. So, again, I'm big on charity. I'm big on the gift. I don't care if you're a lawyer. If you're a lawyer, hey, give free legal advice. If you're a financial guy, give advice on how to invest money. Whatever you do for your living, you need to share that with other people because other people need that. So, for example, back in February or March, I was at this Leukemia Lymphoma Society fundraiser. And, I got to say, I got to shout out to millennials because they get a bad rap, but I was at this event and this buddy of mine I know who's from Ohio, actually, his kid's 17 years old and he had leukemia and he beat it. Amen for that. Yeah. But what was also intriguing was last year, his son started this program to raise funds for leukemia. So I went to the event this past year. These 17 kids, these are high schoolers.
Wow.
Okay, sophomores and juniors, 17 of them. In 7 weeks, Robbie, they raised $480,000 for leukemia.
Woo. Wow.
Bro, I don't want to tell you what I was doing when I was 15, 16 years old. It was, I was looking for $20 a cup of bag. I mean, come on, let's get serious. So, I mean, that's really inspiring. So back to your question, I know we kind of got off track there, but more of that stuff and always that stuff, using my gift to help out, charitable foundations. I'm really excited. I worked at Charlie Trotter, one of the greatest chefs in America, one of the greatest chefs in the world. I'm super stoked about this. I just gotten permission from the estate of Charlie Trotter. I'm going to be compiling a book of stories about the goodness and graciousness of this man that people didn't know about unless they worked for him or they were firsthand recipients of his generosity. So I'm really excited about that too, and help his legacy go on. And I'm working on book 2. You have book 1 there. That's a trilogy, Robbie, because that book covers my birthday, age 22, and I got discharged from the Navy. I mean, bro, I'm 60. There's another 40 years of stories here to tell.
I can't wait to dive into it.
I mean, it's just getting good now.
It definitely. I mean, that's great that you have that going and you're constantly working on evolving because you got some great energy and it's infectious to keep that moving. So I
Well,
can't wait to tap into it.
Let's face it, being a cook, I've been cooking for 45 years now, and just, there comes a point where it is a young man's game, or a young woman's game, if you will, and it comes to a point where you can't be a line cook anymore. I liken it to being a professional athlete. Even Tom Brady, eventually, he's 40 years old. He's going to hang up those cleats.
Yeah.
Just like the chef world. You're going to sit behind a desk. You're going to make menus. You're going to put a tall toque on, and you got to make a shift. But and again, the pandemic has thrown that into the monkey wrench as well. So it's a challenge. But I'm looking forward to the challenge. It's going to be some good stuff. I continue to write. I continue to blog, and I start my own podcast soon. So exciting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then through that, I hadn't once. You hadn't mentioned anything about starting a restaurant or opening one. Did you ever consider that at all, or did you try that, or you just say, you know what, I don't want the headache?
Exactly. Exactly, all that stuff, but especially the last one, the headache. I'm getting a headache just thinking about it. Robbie, people don't understand that having a restaurant, and you're a parent, you'll understand this, it's worse than having a kid, bro. You own that sucker 24/7. If you're the chef or the sous chef or a server, you can leave at night and not worry about it. But my God, as the owner, here's a little plug for anybody who hasn't watched it. I just watched it again for the second time with my wife. I love this movie. It's called Chef.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, rent it. It's awesome, and it really is a good look into the chef world. And I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name right. John Favreau's in it. He's the chef. And he's also got a great Netflix series based off that movie. And then Sophie, I call her Sophie Viagra. What's her name? Sophie Viagra. She's in it. And then Robert Downey Jr. and Dustin Hoffman. So there's some great talent in the movie. But I tell you, these food, my wife, who's Filipino, by the way, when she saw it, she's like, wow, now I get it. Now I understand what you do and why you do it and how chefs are. And it's a great look in the chef world. Chef. Yeah,
I have to check that out.
Yeah, it's great.
Through everything that I'm just so fascinated by just the life. You've lived life, and I like that because you didn't sit on the sidelines. You got it. You rolled your sleeves up. You got after it. Is there one thing, or maybe it's several, but you can really look back on and you can say, you know what, I hang my hat on this. And now it's just something that I absolutely just have so much pride in doing.
No doubt, cook on a submarine, brother. That if there was any one thing that made me who I am, it was that. Because as I said, when I was doing that, and Nate, let's face it, I'm 19, 20 years old, cooking food, making steak and lobster for sailors 500 foot below the ocean in the Pacific. And they would say, hey, if you can do this, you can do anything. And yeah, the Navy taught me, bro, it's cliche, but they made a man out of me. Respect, discipline, organization, pride, patriotism. The whole package. And the Navy did good for me, brother. No, not a bad word ever about to say about the Navy. I encourage anybody who's a youngster to do time in the military. Pick up a branch and go serve 2 years at least.
Yeah, I agree. I think that should definitely be something we should implement. I know we can't do that. We can't mandate it, but I think it would do world of difference for a lot of men and women out there. But you're right. When I first got in the Coast Guard, when I first got on the ship, I thought, man, there are two people I want to make sure that I befriend real quick. And that were the cooks and then the yeomen. Those are the people that I knew there's something with the pay, and then I could make sure that, things were taken care of. And so I made a point whenever we went to port call, I'd buy, the cook a beer, I saw them out, so it became good. And then it was great because over time, then it led to, hey, man, what's for dinner? And they're like, hey, try this out. We want to try this tonight. I'm like, okay, sure. So I was a guinea pig to try the food out where they're going to serve everybody.
You're a smart man, brother. So what did you do in the Coast Guard?
I was a corpsman when I was in the Coast Guard.
Oh, you're a corpsman. Okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was going to, every intent to make a career out of it, but then I met my wife, and then that's when I decided to make a transition to get out of it, just because I wanted to be there for my kids and my wife as well.
Cool.
Yeah. Through, I know you've gone through just so much. When did you start becoming a private? I know I'm kind of bouncing around just because my mind's racing with so many questions. I love you just got so much happening. I hear something and I just gravitate towards it. Like, this is great. And then like, oh, what about this? When did you make that transition to be a private chef?
Great question, because it's something I've always kind of done throughout my career. Because, Robert, the great thing about being a chef, or at least having good cooking skills, you can always get a job. I mean, and I hate to say if that means flipping burgers at McDonald's, that's an exaggeration, but people got to eat, you can always get a job. So throughout my career, there's always been opportunities. And I'll tell you, I spent 10 years in New York City, and I got connected to a couple of buddies of mine who were Jewish, and they're like, Otto, there's money to be made in kosher catering. And oh my God, bro, I'd go do these kosher catering gigs. I'd work 8 hours. I'm walking out with 150, 200 bucks cash. My day job is not paying me that. My day job is paying me maybe 350, 400 a week. I'm working 8 hours. I'm making 200 bucks cash. So that wasn't a personal chef, so to speak. That was more like a hired gun. But it kind of goes along the same wavelength there. So I've always kind of been doing it. But my prime reason to moving to South Carolina from Texas 2 years ago was to take care of my father. The rest of his soul, he passed away this past April on Palm Sunday. But, and when I first got to Charleston, I had a couple of jobs, and I live 20 miles from Charleston. So 40 miles round trip. Again, 60, 70 hours. It's a grind. I can't give my father the attention he needs. So that's when I decided, hey, I'm just going to be a hired gun. I'm going to start picking up gigs here and there. And, one cool thing about Charleston is it's a destination for bachelorette parties.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah. So, bro, I was catering some serious bachelorette parties. And they tipped well, and it was fun menus. And, some of them actually wanted to have like a cooking class combo dinner out of it. So, with my CIA experience, it just, fit right into the teaching mode. And so to answer your question, I've always been kind of a private chef, if you will, in some way, shape or form, but now I'm doing it, as a full-time gig, if you will.
It just hit me earlier when you mentioned about the CIA I didn't realize you were talking about the Culinary Institute of America. I thought you wanted to go be in the Secret Service, and I thought, man, this guy, he want to be a chef for the CIA. He decided to forego the actual CIA. But you're talking about the Culinary Institute of America.
Yeah, it's I saw your eyes. I'm like, he's thinking the other CIA. Yeah, and a lot of people, Robbie, they actually mistake that. I mean, it's kind of funny. But when you're talking to a chef and they use those words or those letters, they're talking about that cooking school, not that place in Langley.
I was surprised. I thought, wait a minute, I thought since 5 you wanted to be a chef, and now you're talking about CIA. But it's all coming together.
Well, one time some guy asked me, he's like, wow, you cooked in the CIA? Well, yeah, I did, but not that one.
Yeah. I love it. And that's great. I mean, I love Charleston. I mean, my wife and I went there, and it's a great place. And but that's cool. I didn't realize that was such a big destination for bachelorette parties, and then to tap into that market is pretty. That's great.
It's a huge destination wedding, place. And if you haven't been out there, you podcast listeners, get to Charleston. They have a great food and wine festival. It's in late February, early March. I'm not sure what's going to be happening next year because of COVID, but fantastic architecture, great history, fantastic food scene, really, really cultural. The shrimp and grits and pecan pie and barbecue and everything else that goes along with it. Yeah, it's a wonderful place for a getaway, family or not. Married couple, honeymoon, what have you. It's a great getaway.
You're making me hungry talking about all that food.
Yeah, I hear you.
Through on that, do you ever participate in it, or you just show up as a bystander for the food and wine festival, or do you actually set up somewhere and advertise your private skills?
I've not set up at that one. I've been to some other ones. I've not been an active participant, if you will. And again, I'm not sure what's going to happen next year, but more and more, with my book out and podcasting, just raising visibility. Hopefully, I'll be able to be someone who's an active participant, if you will. I guess.
Yeah. How did you go about growing that private circuit of for them through marketing, or maybe just through networking through being a private chef? Somebody
Uh,
had you and they were like, "Hey, you got to get this guy. His food was amazing." I mean, how did that kind
yeah,
of?
like any other business, Robbie, it's word of mouth mostly. Matter of fact, so this couple, I just cooked for them this past weekend. Chip and Karina, and I didn't know them. They actually, back to that leukemia foundation I talked about.
Yeah.
I was on the auction block.
Mm-hmm.
So this couple paid thousands of dollars for me to go to their house and cook for them. That was back in March. They just cashed in last week on the winning bid, right? So anyway, 4-course meal for them, and it was great, and they loved it. And the wife, Karina, she's a real foodie. Tricked out kitchen, bro. I mean, every tool, pot, pan, they had it, which is great because some kitchens don't have that. So anyway, she's like, wow. She's like, I know a lot of people that could use your services. She's been a realtor for 20 years. And I'm like, great. If you could pass on my business card, that'd be great. And her husband, Chip, says, our Army guy, he's still active. He's like, hey, be careful what you wish for. I mean, because she can get you out there. I'm like, hey, great. I mean, bro, if I can work, a couple weekends a month and make what I make as a full-time chef in a restaurant, come on. So, love to sort of expand on that TED Talk and maybe become a public speaker. Hey, if I can make a couple grand a pop doing a public speech, why not?
Yeah, you did phenomenal in that as well. I was loving that. It's very engaging. So much that, I thought I was late for our interview, for our conversation, but thankfully you're just, an early bird military, which is great. Beat me to the punch, which I love that. But for that TED Talk, how did that evolution come about? Did you apply, or did somebody said, hey, this guy would be a phenomenal speaker?
I got lucky. I got lucky because my good friend, Adjut George, who's just an amazing human in his own right. I'm not going to get too much involved with him, but he's an Indian immigrant. He's settled in Delaware. The guy's done so many phenomenal things. And one of those phenomenal things was to arrange to be the chairman of a TED Talk in Delaware. And so I said, hey, I'd love to do a TED Talk. No problem. What do you want to talk about? I don't know. I'll figure something out. Okay, great. So I'll put you on for next year. That was 2014. I went into the TED Talk. I'm like, what am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about persistence, because persistence is what got me here. And that's a great feather in your cap. I mean, you talked about, what can you hang your hat on? I mean, the Navy, of course, but that TED Talk, brother, that is a huge feather in your cap. Yeah. I mean, that's like, darn. I mean, So I'm happy. Cool. I'm happy I was able to pull that
off. I bet that's so cool that ended up happening. I didn't realize, man. Time is definitely.
We're flying by, baby.
It is, man. I'm just so enthralled with everything in the conversation. With what that is, I'm trying to think of. Just gone through so much, and I'm just impressed with the absolute journey and what you've gone through. Is there one thing that you actually, I know you've hung your hat on a lot of things, well, a couple things that were really important to you, which I definitely, appreciate that. I don't want to get cliche and ask your favorite meal, because I feel like you've been asked that probably too many times you could ever see. My thing is, because I love food myself, of course, I feel like you said earlier, everybody loves food. What's the absolute best sandwich that you would, because I'm a sandwich go-to guy, like that's it, like hot sandwich, whatever, like what's your absolute, like, this is like, if you were to go into a competition, your top chef, which they would do more than just a sandwich, and you said, hey, you know what, I'm going to make this is going to knock the socks off everybody?
Well, I got two favorite sandwiches, so I will trick them out some way, shape, or form. But we're talking about sandwiches, and it's funny, we talked about that movie Chef, and they featured this sandwich in this food truck, which is a Cuban sandwich.
Yeah,
I love a Cuban, and the other sandwich I absolutely love equally as much as a Cuban, if not more so, actually, pastrami on toasted rye with deli mustard. I love pastrami sandwich. So those are my two faves. What I would do with them, I couldn't tell you right now, because I'm not really thinking about things. I got to put my chef hat on to think about what I would do to trick that out. But then sometimes, Robert, I mean, you don't really want to trick it out. I mean,
Yeah.
because you know, I'm just going to go off on a limb here, but like a lot of young cooks, like they'll take something like a Caesar salad or a clam chowder or whatever. And I'll give you a great example. I was teaching class one time of culinary, and this kid, we're doing New England cuisine, and this kid makes a clam chowder, and he brings me this bowl with a plate underneath it, and the bowl's got the liquid in it, but around the plate is all the ingredients: the celery, the onions, the clams, the potatoes. I said, "What is this?" He said, "This is deconstructed clam chowder, chef." Why would you take something as amazing as clam chowder and separate all those ingredients and give me a bowl of cream? I don't understand. So anyway, I'm taking my pontiff hat off now.
Like you said, why would you mess that up? That's such a great dish.
Yeah. So there you have it.
Yeah. You kind of touched on about the podcast. What is it going to revolve around?
It's obviously food's going to be part of it, but it's not going to be the be all end all. I mean, my buzzwords for the podcast are going to be to educate, entertain, and empower. I want people to be inspired. Yeah, we'll talk about food. You know, say you're my guest. I might ask you about your favorite food memory or your favorite sandwich, whatever. But that's not going to be the be all end all. You know, that guest is on there for a reason. Whether they were a preacher or you know they're a felon who did time for crack manufacturing, like my good friend Jeff Henderson, who's a big-time chef now in Las Vegas. This guy did 10 years locked up in a pen for crack. Now he's out, and he's amazing. You know, so there'll be amazing guests in their field, which I'll pick, and then we're going to weave food in there somehow, some way. But it's not going to be the point of the podcast. And you know, and we may have a recipe to share from that person or what have you. But more than anything else, it's going to be about current events and topics. And then, hey, how did you get to where you are today? What did you overcome? What advice can you give? What can you tell somebody that's in your shoes right now who wants to be in your shoes? Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I talked to a lady. Her name was Donna St. Louis, and she was homeless at 19. And in fast track, she ended up selling a tech consulting business for $250 million. I mean, it was just an unbelievable woman, spirit, just drive, persistence. I mean, it was just, I was floored. So it was cool, just like you said, you know, that field to have that. So anybody wants to be a chef, speaking of, I like to ask people this, and you touched on a lot of things, you know, which is great, you know, about the field, the industry, and how tough it is, and you know how to have that drive, tenacity for it. What would be some advice you would give somebody that wants to get into the industry?
Again, if you want to get in the industry, you know, go to your best or one of your best restaurants in your hometown, in your city, wherever you live, and get in there and see if you like it. And if you do like it, great. Get yourself a couple of good cookbooks. You know, the Thomas Keller cookbook. I mean, honestly, the first cookbook I ever bought was The Joy of Cooking. That thing is a multi bestseller. It's a great go-to book. Get in there and start making the things that they have in there. And trust me, it's not gourmet cuisine, but it gives you the basic knowledge of what you got to do. Go to YouTube, check out knife cuts. To be a chef, you have to master skills. Knowing how to do sufficient knife cuts is a skill. You know, brunoise, julienne, small dice, large dice, medium dice, bâtonnet. What do those mean? What are they? Can you do them proficiently? You know, can you butcher a chicken? Can you make a chicken stock? You know all the different cooking techniques, you know, poach, boil, broil, grill, fry, deep fry, etc. I mean, it's like I used to tell my culinary students when I taught, you know, they come into the culinary school and they want to do all this crazy stuff. And, you know, I said, hey, before Jimi Hendrix played the Star Spangled Banner at Woodstock, he played Mary Had a Little Lamb 1,000 times on his guitar. Yeah. If you really want to get good at what you do, practice. Mm-hmm. I didn't get good at what I did until 15 years into the game. Yeah. Then it finally came to be like, wow, now it's all coagulating. Now I can become a chef. Yeah. Yeah, that's phenomenal. Did you have to take like incremental steps along the way? I know you just threw a lot out there what people have to know. I mean, I know they're not going to just like take that all in. If they're a sponge, fantastic. And if they can regurgitate that, you know, hats off to them. But did you have to go like
like, certain steps? You have to go somewhere and say, you know what, I have to be in this specific role for, I don't know, 2 or 3 years, and then you can move up to the next phase.
It's somewhat like that. And then, back to my apprenticeship program, it's based on the French hierarchy system, okay, where, there's the garde manger, which is the cold kitchen. And that's usually where you start out. And you learn how to make pâtés, terrines, galantines, and do all this amazing cold food buffet. And then the normal procedure is you'll go to the butcher shop and work in the butcher shop for, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. And then you go on the line and become the entremetier, which is the vegetable cook. And then you go to the grillade, which is the grill cook, and then the poissonnier, which is the fish cook, and then the vaulted saucier, where you're making the sauces, and then eventually you become chef de partie, which means, okay, you're in charge of that station and the entire line. You oversee it, and then sous chef and etc. So yeah, there was a hierarchy, there's a pecking order, there is a way to do this. I would imagine just like medical school, where you have to do what do you call your residency?
Yeah,
same kind of thing,
Yeah, true. Well, definitely they need to put the time into if they want to, achieve this level of success that, that you have been able to master, if you will. And I know you've definitely have a lot on your plate. I want to give that time back to you. Well, I'm thinking of it too, before we end. If anybody's in Charleston, wants to look you up, before we can get back out, so they can have a private chef, come cater to them if they're really looking forward to it, what would be the best way I can get in touch with you?
Hey, I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. You can email me, Otto Borsich @hotmail.com. You can buy my book on Amazon.com as well, A Chef is Born. And this is just something funny, Robbie. It hit me. I want to share with you. I'm giving your viewers all these hints about what they need to do to become a chef, if in fact they want to do that crazy business.
Yeah.
This is what you don't do. So true story at Charlie Trotters when I worked there. So I'm there, working away. It's early in the morning, and there's a guy there named Reggie. Reggie was the first guy that Charlie ever hired, and he stayed the entire time. He stayed for 25 years. Wow. So one day, this 20-something kid just graduates from Kendall College in Chicago, cooking school, walks in there. His resume is about this big, and just walks in the back door. Which, hey, I commend you for that. Okay, you got some stones on you. All right, that's good. And he's like, so he's talking to Reggie. He's like, yeah, I want a job here. Yeah, what kind of job do you want? I want to be a sous chef. He's looking at his resume. He goes, you just graduated Kendall College and you want to be a sous chef at Charlie Trotters? Yeah. Hang on a second. Reggie walks away. He goes to this equipment drawer and he opens it up and he pulls out a carrot peeler, vegetable peeler, and he throws it at the guy. He says, here you go. You can be the sous chef of those potatoes. Start peeling. So don't go to some big fancy restaurant and say you want to be the sous chef right out of the gate. It's not going to work.
No. Well, so he's got the peeling, and then from there he works his way up to the sous chef.
That's it. Exactly.
I love it. Well, Otto, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate it. It was absolute joy to talk to you, and it's time has flown by. I feel like I talked to you for 3 minutes, and it's been, I don't know, damn near an hour, and it's just flown by.
All righty. Well, hey, I appreciate your time, sir, and I wish you continued success with your fortune here. And I thank you for your service. It's been nothing but a joy to share some time with you today.